Welcome to my channel. I never imagined a simple bet could change my life so completely. My name is Alex, and I was just another average high school student. Unremarkable, overlooked, blending into the background. I didn't care much about looks, fashion, or fitting in. My days were filled with classes, homework, and trying to survive social interactions without drawing attention. But everything shifted the day Tyler, the cocky star of our football team, tossed a challenge my way. It started as a joke, of course. Tyler had this smug grin on his face, leaning against his locker, arms crossed, the kind of look that could make anyone feel small. "Hey Alex," he said, voice dripping with mischief. "I bet you couldn't pull off being the prettiest girl in school for a week." "You? No chance." I froze. The words hit me in a strange way, not just because of the absurdity, but because part of me felt a flicker of curiosity. I'd always admired fashion, makeup, and the art of presentation, but I'd never dared experiment. My sister, Jenna, was the one who had the flair for style, the way she moved, the confidence that turned heads wherever she went. And yet, for reasons I didn't fully understand, Tyler's ridiculous challenge made something inside me stir. I laughed nervously, trying to mask my intrigue. "You're insane. I'd never do that." Tyler's grin widened. "Come on, Alex. Don't tell me you're scared. You've got a week. Win the bet, or admit defeat in front of everyone. How's that sound?" The thought lingered in my mind long after Tyler walked away. My friends teased me mercilessly when they heard about it, thinking it was some kind of joke. But as I sat in my room that evening, staring at Jenna's closet, the idea started to feel thrilling. The thought of exploring that side of myself, of stepping into an entirely new persona, sent a mix of fear and excitement coursing through me. Jenna's wardrobe was a treasure trove: skirts, blouses, dresses, shoes, and a carefully curated collection of makeup. I'd never touched it before, always respecting her space, but tonight was different. Carefully, I opened the closet door, trying to suppress the thrill that surged in my chest. My fingers brushed over soft fabrics, the textures whispering possibilities. I picked up a pastel dress, small but elegant, and held it against me. Could I really pull this off? The idea seemed impossible, yet intoxicating. I imagined walking through the halls of school, feeling the soft fabric, the delicate sway of the dress as I moved, the way people might look at me differently. My heart raced at the thought, not just the excitement of the bet, but the allure of stepping out of my comfort zone entirely. The next few hours were a blur. I experimented with makeup, clumsily at first, smudging eyeliner and overdoing blush. But each time I looked in the mirror, I felt a strange satisfaction, a flicker of confidence I'd never experienced. I practiced walking in Jenna's heels, stumbling a few times, before finally finding a rhythm that felt almost natural. By the end of the night, I didn't recognize the person staring back at me, but it felt right. Scary, exhilarating, but undeniably right. The setting of my transformation was our small, cozy apartment, where every sound echoed and privacy was limited. My parents were at work, and Jenna had gone to a friend's house, leaving me alone with her treasures. I felt like I was stepping into a secret world, a parallel version of myself that existed only in these four walls. The mood was electric, half anticipation, half fear, half something I couldn't yet name. Isabella, my girlfriend, would have been the first to notice the change. We'd been dating for 6 months, and while she knew me well, she didn't know this side of me. The thought of revealing this secret terrified me. How would she react? Would she laugh, be curious, or feel betrayed that I'd hidden this part of myself? But there was no time to dwell. The bet loomed over me, teasing, daring me to take the leap. I practiced again in the mirror, adjusting the hem of the dress, smoothing my hair, fixing the slightly crooked heels. Each moment, I felt more like the persona I was about to present to the world. Sleep didn't come easily that night. I lay in bed, imagining the reactions I might get at school, the thrill of pulling this off, and the risk of being caught. The internal conflict churned within me, excitement battling fear, curiosity battling shame. Could I really become the prettiest girl in school for a week? And more importantly, would I want to go back to being just Alex once it was over? By morning, the challenge felt impossibly real. I dressed in a soft, pastel blouse and skirt, carefully applying makeup that emphasized features I'd never thought about before. As I slid on the heels, I felt an unfamiliar sway in my step, a subtle shift in posture that made me feel lighter, more confident, almost like I'd borrowed someone else's grace. Walking to the bus stop, every glance felt magnified. Some people stared, some whispered. I caught glimpses of myself in store windows and saw a reflection I barely recognized, but that recognition was oddly thrilling. I realized that the bet was no longer just a challenge from Tyler. It had become a personal journey. Each step in heels, each careful brushstroke of blush, every whispered comment or glance from classmates built an entirely new version of me, one that felt alive in ways I hadn't known before. As I reached school, my heartbeat thundered in my chest. The week ahead promised more than a simple bet. It promised discovery, transformation, and a dangerous thrill that I couldn't ignore. And as I walked into the building, I realized that nothing would ever be the same again. The first day of the bet was the hardest. I felt my heart hammering against my ribs as I navigated the school hallways, trying to act natural while every eye seemed to trace my every movement. The pastel skirt swished around my knees, and the blouse clung just enough to hint at curves I didn't know I had. Each step in the heels forced me to concentrate, balancing the thrill of walking like someone entirely different with the fear of tripping or looking foolish. Internal conflict gnawed at me constantly. Part of me felt a surge of excitement, the freedom of expressing a side of myself I had kept hidden for so long. Yet shame and fear hovered like shadows. Would Tyler laugh if I failed? Would my friends tease me mercilessly? And Isabella? How would she feel if she ever knew? My emotions collided in a storm of exhilaration and terror, leaving me trembling even when I tried to appear composed. During lunch, I sat at our usual table, trying to blend in while also being impossible to ignore. Girls whispered, boys stared, and I could feel the curious energy vibrating through the cafeteria. I caught Tyler's eyes across the room. His smirk told me he was enjoying every second of this challenge. The mix of admiration, jealousy, and disbelief in the room made my pulse race. I realized then that the bet wasn't just about looks. It was about control, perception, and the power of transformation itself. By the second day, I had begun to adapt to this new persona. I experimented more boldly with makeup, learning to enhance features I had always ignored. The soft brush of blush across my cheeks, the subtle flick of eyeliner, the way lipstick changed my expression, it was intoxicating. Each session in front of the mirror revealed a little more confidence, a little more of the person I had hidden even from myself. But the more I transformed, the more I noticed the challenges. Walking gracefully in heels, keeping a natural posture, modulating my voice, all of it required constant attention. Every step in the hallways felt like a performance, every conversation a delicate balance between authenticity and illusion. I started to feel the weight of the secret pressing down on me, the fear of being discovered at any moment. Midweek brought new complications. Friends began noticing subtle changes in my behavior. Slight shifts in mannerisms, the way I laughed, the way I carried myself. Some whispered, some asked questions, and I had to navigate these interactions with caution. The thrill of being admired was tempered by anxiety. The more people noticed, the higher the stakes became. One afternoon, while trying to perfect my walk in the gym hallway, I stumbled slightly, drawing a few glances. My face flushed with embarrassment, but something inside me ignited. I realized I was enjoying this more than I should admit. The sensation of control, the subtle power of commanding attention, and the delicate tension of secrecy made every misstep feel like part of the game. By Thursday, I had started to embrace this version of myself fully. My confidence had grown, and with it, the internal thrill of transformation. I began experimenting with accessories, bracelets, necklaces, hairpins, that added layers to my persona. Each addition felt like a small victory, a step further into the character I was becoming. Yet anxiety lingered. I knew the challenge was far from over, and any misstep could unravel everything. The fear of discovery, particularly by Isabella or my sister Jenna, weighed on me constantly. Every knock at the door, every unexpected glance, sent shivers down my spine. I had to master not only the physical aspects of transformation but also the emotional tightrope of maintaining secrecy. As the week progressed, the suspense escalated. Every day brought new lessons: the importance of posture, the subtle art of conversation, the careful balance between confidence and vulnerability. Each evening, I returned home exhausted but exhilarated, spending hours in front of the mirror, adjusting, practicing, refining. I became obsessed with perfection, aware that my public persona had to be flawless to win the bet and, more importantly, to avoid exposure. By the end of the week, I had fully embraced my new identity. I was walking with elegance, talking with poise, and moving with a grace that turned heads wherever I went. Tyler watched in disbelief, friends whispered, and even strangers seemed captivated. But beneath the surface, I was acutely aware of the fragility of this new reality. One wrong step, one misjudged word, one slip of a heel, and everything could come crashing down. The week of the bet taught me more than I ever imagined about myself. I discovered a capacity for boldness, an ability to command attention, and a hidden facet of my personality that thrived on transformation. But it also revealed vulnerabilities, shame, fear, and the constant pressure of secrecy. And then came the final day, the climax of the bet. The hallways felt charged with energy, every glance amplified, every whisper magnified. I felt like I was performing on the stage of the entire school, and the tension was unbearable. This was the moment of truth. Would I succeed, or would the illusion crumble under the weight of expectation? The final day of the bet began with a nervous energy that made my stomach twist in knots. I woke early, my mind already racing through the steps I'd rehearsed in front of the mirror 1,000 times. Every movement, every gesture, every word had to be perfect. The thrill of transformation was now entangled with the dread of exposure, and I could feel the weight of the entire school's attention pressing down on me. I dressed carefully, selecting the outfit that Tyler had deemed the winning look. The soft pink dress hugged my figure in all the right places, the fabric flowing just enough to give an air of elegance without appearing overdone. I slipped into the matching heels, wincing slightly at the pressure on my feet, and applied the finishing touches to my makeup. Every brushstroke, every flick of eyeliner, every dab of gloss was a tiny act of self-command, a careful balancing of confidence and vulnerability. Walking to school, each step felt deliberate, as if I were performing a ritual rather than simply moving. My reflection in the store windows caught my eye repeatedly, each glimpse confirming the startling transformation I had undergone. I barely recognized myself. The girl in the mirror carried herself with a grace I had only dreamed of, and part of me reveled in it while another part shivered with the fear of being caught. As soon as I entered the school, the energy shifted. Whispers followed me through the hallways, eyes tracked every step, and I could feel the mix of admiration, jealousy, and curiosity surrounding me. Tyler's smirk was a constant reminder of the bet stakes. He was watching, judging, enjoying the spectacle. My friends hesitated near me, their expressions betraying both surprise and awe. I felt like a performer on an invisible stage, with the entire school as my audience. Midway through the morning, disaster nearly struck. A group of students crowded near my locker, blocking my path as they whispered questions and compliments. I felt my composure teetering. One misstep in my heels, a laugh that sounded too high-pitched, or a gesture that seemed unnatural could reveal everything. My heart raced, palms damp, as I navigated through the crowd with the delicate precision of a tightrope walker. Each step demanded complete focus, my mind racing ahead to anticipate potential hazards. Then came the twist. Jenna, my sister, appeared unexpectedly. She froze when she saw me, her eyes widening in shock. "Is that you?" she asked, her voice a mixture of disbelief and amusement. My blood ran cold. Jenna knew my everyday persona, my usual casual appearance, and now she was confronted with this entirely different version of me. Panic clawed at my chest as I tried to craft a believable explanation, a story that could pass as harmless and avoid suspicion. It's a new outfit," I stammered, my voice wavering just enough to betray my anxiety. She raised an eyebrow, clearly unconvinced, but before she could press further, Tyler appeared at her side, grinning triumphantly. "She's doing the bet, remember?" he said smoothly, deflecting Jenna's curiosity. Relief washed over me in a brief, fleeting wave. The danger wasn't over, but for now, the threat of exposure had been mitigated. The rest of the day was a blur of adrenaline and heightened awareness. Every glance, every whisper, every small interaction became a test of my ability to maintain composure. I felt simultaneously empowered and terrified, each step in my heels a small victory, each compliment a dagger that reminded me how fragile this performance truly was. By afternoon, I had started to enjoy the thrill of control. The way I carried myself, the way people reacted to me, the sense of power in commanding attention, it was intoxicating. Yet anxiety never fully left me. The possibility of a misstep, a sudden revelation, or an unplanned confrontation lingered like a shadow, keeping me alert and tense. And then, the ultimate challenge arrived. The principal called for an impromptu school assembly, requiring everyone to gather in the auditorium. Panic surged through me. The room would be filled with hundreds of students, all eyes potentially on me. Could I walk the stage, speak if necessary, and maintain the illusion without faltering? My pulse pounded as I entered the crowded room, heels clicking against the polished floor, my mind a whirlwind of fear and determination. On stage, the tension reached its peak. I could feel the collective gaze of the entire school pressing down, and every movement was a calculated risk. My heart threatened to betray me with its rapid beating, but I forced myself to breathe, to focus, to embody the persona I had honed over the past week. The applause that followed my brief speech was both a relief and a surge of pride. I had succeeded, at least for the moment. But just as the adrenaline began to ebb, a new twist appeared. Tyler, grinning as always, subtly signaled me to follow him backstage. Curiosity and apprehension battled within me. What could he want now? Was this the final test, or a trap waiting to expose me? The suspense tightened like a vice. Every step forward weighted with uncertainty. As I followed him, I realized that the bet had changed me irreversibly. I was no longer just the quiet, cautious person who had entered the school that week. I was someone else, someone who could command attention, navigate fear, and embrace transformation in ways I had never imagined. Yet the stakes had never been higher. One wrong move, one unexpected glance, and the fragile web of secrecy could collapse completely. The climax of the bet was not a single moment but a cascade of high-stakes decisions, each one threatening exposure while offering the exhilaration of mastery. Every whispered comment, every surprised look, every small triumph fed into a tense narrative of suspense, danger, and self-discovery. And as I stood backstage, poised between victory and disaster, I understood that the true challenge had only just begun. Backstage, my heart still thundering in my chest, I followed Tyler through the narrow corridor. The buzz of the auditorium faded behind us, replaced by an eerie quiet that made every footstep echo. My heels clicked against the linoleum floor, a rhythmic reminder of how exposed I felt, both physically and emotionally. Every instinct screamed caution, yet curiosity and adrenaline pushed me forward. Tyler stopped in front of a door marked staff only. His grin widened, almost mischievously. "Ready for the final part?" he asked, eyes glinting with that same teasing dominance that had both thrilled and terrified me all week. I swallowed, feeling the tension coil tighter in my stomach. What do you mean?" My voice sounded small, almost fragile, even to myself. He waved me inside without answering, and I stepped into a dimly lit room lined with mirrors. My reflection multiplied infinitely, each version of me staring back with wide, uncertain eyes. The pink dress, the carefully applied makeup, the heels that made every step a careful balancing act, they all seemed more intense here, magnified in the mirrored maze. "Look at yourself," Tyler said, voice low, commanding. "This is who you are now. Do you like it?" I hesitated, caught between exhilaration and fear. The thrill of transformation, the power of being the prettiest girl in school, coursed through me, but so did a wave of vulnerability I hadn't felt before. Every mirror reflected not just my appearance but my internal conflict, my secret self revealed to someone who knew exactly how to push my buttons. Before I could respond, the door creaked open behind me. A shadow fell across the floor, and my pulse skyrocketed. "Tyler, what's going on?" My voice shook, and I could feel my composure threatening to crack. A figure stepped into the room. Isabella. My girlfriend. Her eyes widened as they scanned the scene. The mirrors, the dress, the heels, and most importantly me. For a moment, everything froze. The air itself seemed charged with tension, every second stretching unbearably. I wanted to explain, to apologize, to convince her that this was just a game, but the words stuck in my throat. Tyler's grin never wavered. "Looks like the final reveal has an audience," he said, almost too casually. Isabella stepped closer, her gaze sharp, inquisitive, and slightly fearful. Why are you dressed like this? Her voice was quiet, but it cut through the silence like a blade. I could feel my entire week of careful balance, rehearsed gestures, and controlled confidence teetering on the edge. One misstep, one word too much, and everything could collapse. My mind raced. Do I tell her the truth? Do I try to hide it? Or do I let Tyler's plan play out and hope she doesn't see too much? Suddenly, my heel caught on the corner of a rug. I stumbled slightly, my body tilting dangerously. Tyler reached out instinctively, steadying me, and I felt a rush of mixed emotions: embarrassment, thrill, and a strange exhilaration. Isabella's eyes widened even more, her lips parting as she seemed to process the impossibility of the scene. Then she stepped forward, hand reaching out, not angrily, not accusingly, but hesitantly. Are you really doing this? I froze, unsure whether to nod, shake my head, or run. The room seemed impossibly small, every mirrored reflection amplifying the suspense. I could feel my heart pounding against my ribs, each beat a drum of panic and excitement. Tyler's eyes gleamed with anticipation, as if he had orchestrated this exact moment. And then, the lights flickered. A sharp knock echoed from the door behind us, startling all three of us. My heart leapt into my throat. Another person? A teacher? A parent? Someone who could expose everything? Tyler motioned for silence, a sly smirk on his face. Isabella's gaze shifted between me and the door, and I realized in that instant that nothing was under my control anymore. The suspense, the thrill, the fear. It was all teetering on a knife's edge. I swallowed hard, heels clicking nervously against the floor as I took a cautious step back. The knock came again, louder this time, sending a shiver down my spine. Isabella's hand hesitated, hovering in the air, her expression unreadable. Tyler leaned slightly closer, whispering, "Ready for what comes next?" I could only nod slightly, my entire body trembling. Every instinct screamed to run, to hide, to change back, but part of me wanted to stay, to see the culmination of this week-long transformation, no matter the risk. The door handle rattled. And then, the screen cuts to black. The suspense hangs thick in the air. Who's at the door? Will Isabella accept this new side of me, or will everything collapse in humiliation and panic? Tyler's smirk, my trembling form, and Isabella's uncertain gaze leave viewers on the edge, hearts racing, minds spinning with questions.